texts about renouncing all my possessions, I just stopped listening. I ceased to hear any good news. I think maybe by your laughter can agree with me on that. Spiritually, I can become like a toddler who puts her hands over her ears and sings la 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 la. Because this idea of renouncing the stuff of this world, the stuff that I work hard for, and often serves as a great cushion between me and whatever ails me, renouncing that, letting go of those things, that's terrifying. And not something that I and maybe some of you are not always ready to do. If and when I take away my hands from my ears and breathe a minute, I think maybe there is good news to hear. Good news because I do think Jesus is very serious about what it means to be a disciple of Christ. Discipleship, let's try that. That's probably better. Discipleship, being part of this large crowd following Jesus, that's all of us, reminds us that this is an upfront proposition. Jesus is not tempting to lure anyone into an unconsidered life. Jesus is not a snake oil salesman peddling a one-size-fits-all quick fix. The gospel offers a warning about the consequences of life lived in love. Jesus is not asking for a guarantee of fidelity in advance of the journey, only issuing a strongly worded warning. Asking each of us, each person, to consider in advance what the commitment requires. Easy to say yes, harder to stay the path. Because many of us have started a diet or an exercise plan or drawn up a budget or made a resolution of some kind. Starting for humanity is rarely the problem. It's that commitment for the long haul. Because the long haul requires a redirection of our time and energy, often a change in relationships, in vocation maybe, in allocation of resources. Jesus provokes those of us in the crowd who are still listening. He grabs our attention and incites us to mindfulness, to the awareness of how we are living. The life of a disciple is a life of sacrifice, a life of change, of choice, of forks in the road, some clear and some not so clear. Following Christ means making deliberate decisions. Decisions about our time, our talent, and our treasure. Decisions about everything from the ecology of the earth to business practices to how we treat each other. On this journey, there is always a choice, and all we are asked to do is to make the next one, knowing that the path is full of twists and turns, potholes and detours. There is a call to follow. There is a call to listen and to trust. And there is a cost in every choice. It's not a guilt trip. We don't need to cover our ears. I think each of us can hear this. Some years ago now, I was in a Bible study with the Bishop of Atlanta, and the bishop was leading the Bible study on this text, on this gospel. The bishop asked a question to begin the reflection. Who is God? Where does God show up in the text? Oh, that's a good question, I thought. I was trying not to panic because I always want to have the right answer, of course, especially when the bishop's in the room. Who is God? At first, God is implied as the one who holds all that confusing talk with words like hate, renounce, cross, disciple, war. Maybe God is the one who helps me make sense of all that confusing talk. The more I thought about it, the more I began to see God as the tower builder. The builder who knows exactly the cost of discipleship. Well, this immediately made the text more personal, more comforting. Now, not necessarily comfortable, but more comforting. God knows the challenges in the text and in my life. God knows the challenges of discipleship, of following that way of love, and what it means in your life and in mine. So there's a possibility that I'm comforted even when I feel hopeless or helpless. Comforted when I'm unsure if I have planned well or done enough or said the right thing. Comforted when I doubt that my part even matters anymore. I'm reminded, thankfully, that it does matter because of the work God has done and is doing in the world through Christ with the Holy Spirit. And that means through you and me. The risk is showing up every day to see how we together, how we can continue to share in that good news. Comforted, but definitely not comfortable. There will always be a cost, to be sure, in any relationship, whether that's spiritual, financial, emotional. In every choice, there is a cost. And God is there in those choices. God is here in these words, in our lives, in this worship, in this sharing of bread and wine. So stay the course. Keep on listening, knowing that God knows how to build a tower and a kingdom. And dare I say, a church. Yes, a church. And you are part of it, part of the church, part of this place. A place where we are challenged and comforted. And I pray, never, ever comfortable.